Okay, we are recording. Gaz, how are you today, mate?
I'm good. I'm okay. Yeah, nice and sunny outside, even up in the miserable north.
Lovely stuff. Lovely stuff. Well, look, we've already been chatting before we press record, and so I'm going to jump straight in and kick off your playlist now, and I'm going to ask you, please, to tell me the song that you regard as having the greatest ever intro, please, mate.
It's Alternative Ulster by Stiff Little Fingers. I mean, as you know, there's loads, isn't there, Marvin Gaye, what's going on. It goes on and on and on, but that one resonates with me from school. And I just love it. It starts, it's just a guitar, electric guitar, ding, 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 ding. People don't know it. And it never gets going, and you think it's never going to start, and all of a sudden
Yeah,
it kicks. It just, I don't know how the delay, the timing's quite odd what he's playing. It's punk, so probably wasn't on purpose. Probably fueled by some sort of amphetamine or something. I don't know, but it's really weird, odd, and you like that kind of way, and then it just kicks in, and then the song gets better, but that intro never leaves you. To this day, that guitar lick. So it's basically that just a little guitar. It's a simple guitar lick.
and it is weird because I guess it is a strange timing. I know exactly what you mean. Like I literally just listened to it again before we jumped on this call, and the song is 100 miles an hour, but the intro is far from it, and
That's the point. Yeah,
it kind of is a bit of a juxtaposition. Is that the word? I believe it is.
it is, yeah. That's a good point. I never thought about that. Yeah, well, it kind of it leads into a kind of it's kind of like the quiet before the storm, and it leads to a self of what's the word? I don't know. It don't give you any inkling to what the song's going to be like. Exactly what you just said. And you think it's going to be some kind of like, oh God, I nearly said you too then, but it's not. But this kind of atmospheric, and it doesn't. It's changed. But the
Yeah,
song, and it doesn't change. It's bizarre. It's really bizarre.
yeah.
It kind of lulls you to a false sense of security. That's what I was trying to think about. It's early in the morning. I think that's what it does. But I just love it. I don't know. It's just something that's resonated with me since I first heard it when I can't remember. Punk was just before my time. So I'd spent time in Salford Royal Hospital and I missed going to high school, starting high school first couple of months. So I got there and I just listened to loads of music. So punk, it kind of finished, but we were all like 10, 11-year-old punks where punk had gone 2 years, it'd
Yeah.
finished 2 years before. But it blew, but a kind of new wave had come in by then. Hence some of my next couple of choices in a minute. But yeah, a great band as well. When I lived in London, actually, I met a couple of them once in a pub used to go in Kensal Green, Kensal Rise, sorry. And I was just asking him all night about this intro. I can't remember what he said. I know we don't, too many guineas, but it was just that one song. I mean, I like the band. The band were a favourite at the time as well. But that particular song, and it was just I remember buying the single, little crazy cover and everything.
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
Didn't really understand the meaning of it all at the time.
yeah. I want to ask you a little bit about intros because I guess generally punk intros are pretty short, sharp, and to the point. This one is a little bit different. And then, I guess punk kind of drew a line on that kind of sort of prog that come before it, which an intro would last 20 fucking minutes. And then, as sort of scenes have evolved and where we're at now, it appears that, you know, the next generation's thumbs are really rapid and they're switching on their phones every 3 seconds unless you hook them. And I just wonder how your approach. Bear with me, guys. I'm going round the houses with this question. Like how your approach to songwriting and potentially the intro has changed from when you first started writing to what you're doing now. Do you take into consideration these trends and changes?
You know what you do, but you try. But I try not to subscribe to it. But you do. You definitely take it into certainly when what an old trick, which is a great trick, I thought worked for decades, is you know you think after the first verse you think you're going into a chorus when you don't, you're going back into another verse. So it's all that teasing. Everything's about anticipation. Everything in life's anticipation. About for everything. But there's not that. There's everything's just throwaway now. So you can't even do that. You have to get to the chorus quick, and that kind of disappoints me. And I must admit, I don't subscribe to it. But when there's been a decision when what to do, I've said to Lachu, who writes me, the producer, no, because he's really keen on wait, and I just said you don't get that luxury anymore. And it's sad that I have given into it a couple of times, but for the most part, no.
Yeah.
And obviously, single edits you do, you got to do it for radio stuff, maybe. But yeah, I think it's kind of sad that. But I'm guilty of it as well. I can go and buy something, I can go shopping tomorrow, I can get it on Amazon and have it delivered tomorrow. So I'm guilty as well.
Yeah.
But it's sad, isn't it? Because I think it kind of is, but maybe that's just an old man screaming at the moon.
Mate, I think this is the very reason that I started doing this podcast because it felt that everything, whether it be TV, where I'm hearing musicians being like interviewed, it's like a 3 minute thing. It's like, right, give us an anecdote, what you plug in, and it's like nothing's long form. So it was like, right, let's just have a proper chat, and it's like, and you don't really get that much anymore. And I
You know
think
what?
that's
You don't, and no one wants to talk about music. You see when you see bands release stuff and they do the podcasts and interviews, do all that, and it's all about what suffering they've had to come through. What illnesses they've got, uh, how they fought against this. I thought instead just talk about the music. Just talk, and it's kind of everything's kind of changed. Everyone's got ADHD. That's I think that. I mean, I'm not belittling anything because I know about mental illness. God knows I've struggled myself, but but it's there you go. See, I've gone straight into it. God knows I've struggled myself, Stu. You know what? I would have made this record if it wasn't for.
I'll
You
put
know,
some music behind this bit, mate. I'll really, really embellish it,
yeah,
mate.
yes, some emotional music. And yeah, it's even like you don't see film people don't making films now. It's a Netflix three parts series because
Yeah,
they've got
mate.
attention spans, and it's sad really because as you know, I'm sure you'll agree with me. It's like when you get an album as a kid, whether it would be like whatever album you buy, like Never Mind the Bollocks was the first album I got. My parents bought me when I came out of hospital, and it was the obvious songs, the Anarchy in the UK. And then really, as time goes by, it's the songs like Submission and the other songs that are not the big tunes that become your favourite songs. And and that's the sad thing about the albums not being around anymore. When you get, you buy the album for the hits or whatever, but then you realise that the other songs are actually better, and then days are kind of going, it's a shame.
And it is because, I mean, you know, I think when we were younger, you only had X amount of money, so you could only afford an album every
Mm.
once in a blue moon. And you mentioned Marvin Gaye earlier, and I remember sort of reading the NME's like greatest albums of all time, and it was like I knew all the Motown songs from Marvin Gaye. And it was like, no, this album, and I was like, oh, okay. So I went and bought What's Going On, and I knew the track What's Going On. I think I knew Mercy Mercy Me,
Yeah, yeah,
and I
same.
put it on, and I was like, where's all the chirpy Motown hits? Like, what the fuck is this? And it was like, and it was only the fact that I spent money on it that I went back and listened to it, and it's my favorite album of all time. And it's like,
You know what? It's funny. It's probably my favourite album of all time.
yeah, it's a masterpiece, mate.
It's weird that because that's exactly the same thing. There were the two songs I knew on it,
Yeah,
exactly the same thing. You bought money on it. It's not. I've got to listen to it,
yeah,
and I think that's the perseverance for a lot of things. Whether it's marriage or getting into but anything, people give up too easy now, and everything's just
yeah,
life. I think everyone just seems to think, and I mean, it's not their fault, the media, whatever it is, but everyone seems to think that everything's. I'm not even on Instagram, so I don't know, but so I'm just using this phrase, so I could be wrong. An Instagram moment, and it's not reality. Tony
yeah,
Wilson,
yeah,
nothing is real. Nothing's as it seems. Nothing.
yeah.
It's true. It really isn't. But you're right. That's funny. That's my favorite album of all time. Is yours, yeah. When my eldest son was born in Australia, and we had a collection of songs to take for the childbirth, and I ended up going out late that night. I had a hangover and got to the hospital. We'd only brought one album that was on repeat, 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 repeat all night.
Fantastic,
Probably
love
not my
it.
favorite album.
All right, track two, Gaz. I'm going to ask you, please, to tell me the first song you remember hearing that had an emotional impact on you, please.
It was Waterloo Sunset by the Kinks. It could have been a couple. Waterloo Sunset by the Kinks. Uh, and I was in Tenby, South Wales, on holiday. My mum and dad had this caravan. Was in this caravan club. It was in a caravan. It was raining. It was a really hot 2 weeks, but one day it was raining. We stuck in the caravan, and I met a guy from London. Never forget his name, Lance Tucker. Don't know what he does. This is 1974. I was a little kid. Lance Tucker, I remember him. He told me we were fishing the Thames, and we thought I'd never been to London then. London was this magical place. Uh, And Lance Tucker came in, and he was we were having some beans on toast or something, and it came on the radio. And I was like, what's this? Was it? And then because he was from London, he started talking about Waterloo. Oh, I've seen the sunset. I mean, he probably hadn't, he was a kid. But and I was like, oh, I've got to go to got to go to this London. And I just remember the song. And every time I hear it, every single time I hear it, wife had it on a playlist in the car. Uh, Last week we was in Ibiza and it came on and it just took me straight back to Tenby in the caravan, this rainy day having beans on toast, and Lance Tucker with this strange accent, talking to strange accent, talking to me about London town, and it was brilliant, And we went to London there later that year, and I loved it. It was amazing.
What was the emotion, if you had to pinpoint it, that you got hearing that?
Hmm. When a track of music gets you, and we don't know why music does this. We know everything's vibration, all that, and where vibration slowed down, etc., and all that hippie stuff. But we don't know. We really don't know. It's like like love and that. We don't know what it is. It's something really, really bizarre, and it kind of everything, nothing else matters. It's a bit like love for another. Everything else, nothing else matters, and this focus thing. It kind of. I think Bob Marley said this. He asked him, a journalist in New Zealand was trying to catch him out in the 70s and said to him, why do you smoke cannabis or marijuana? What I think they said. Why do you smoke ganja? And he said, it gives me a little time with myself, which I think perfect. And then he went on to say, everything just becomes background.
Yeah.
And it does. I don't know. It has some chemical change in your body music, and we still don't know what it is. I mean, they know the kind of science behind it to a degree, but they really don't know the emotional concept with it. It's really strange, really strange. And I can't. I even I getting a little bit of thingy. They talk about the track, getting a little, not a little bit, and I've not listened to it since last week, but it got me. I was in this car in sunny Ibiza. It was sunny, and it came on. Was up in the hills, and it just took me straight back. And I love the Kings ever since that. I love the Dave's. I just love it was just a phenomenal band. And I remember when I went to London, I wanted to always walk around. When I lived in London, I used to just go for walks, go out with the day, go to somewhere I didn't know and walk. I remember like going to Wimbledon and walking around these old little streets, and it was just bizarre. Just thought I lived in Westbourne Grove, not Hill, but I used to go everywhere. And I remember, I think it was he said it, and Paul Weller said, "Beauty about London is." I know I'm digressing, sorry, but
It's
about
fine.
London is turn a corner, get lost, and go somewhere you've never been before.
Yeah,
It's a
yeah,
magical, and it is.
yeah. Love it. Love it. Tell me a little bit about uh growing up, Gaz. Was home a musical environment when you was a kid?
Yeah, yeah. Well, I had an older sister who was 3 years older. She was studying classical guitar and piano. She's a bit of a one of them studious types. Uh, so I had guitar lessons with her when I was 8. Went for classical guitar. You only get classical then, the late
Yeah.
70s. I was like 8. Was it like no, not late 70s? Yeah, 70s. Yeah, mid 70s. You couldn't get but I wanted to play rock. I'd seen on Top of the Pops, and I was rubbish. And she was really studious and good. Then she got into piano. I did that for 4 years, and I had a bad accident, so I couldn't play guitar anymore. But there was my mum and dad were really big on rock and roll, massive. My dad was so every we had one of them big stereo systems. And my dad, every he works 6 days a week or 7 days a week away, but Saturday and Sunday morning he was blasting before the football on the Saturday and all day Sunday, and it was always like rock and roll and well, a lot. He was into Isaac Hayes, and really into gospel, a lot of soul music, but lots of old stuff as well. So yeah, it was constantly on in the house. Well,
I'm going to ask you for track three. Gaz, tell me the song that reminds you of your time at school, please, mate.
there's lots. Actually, when I sent this, something came of Golden Brown by the Stranglers came on yesterday, and I thought, oh, that reminds me of school as well. And there's lots of different ones, but Message to You, Rudy by the Specials was the one because punk. I was too young for them. When I got to school, the two-tone thing just happened, and I was like 12, and it was just perfect time. And I got the trilby out. I got the Parker. And I got really got into the Who, Quadrophenia. But that song is every time I hear it, and Too Much Too Young just takes me straight back to being in the classroom with my friends. And it'd been a grammar school, the school I went to, but it stopped being a grammar school because Salford Council stupidly stopped doing that a few years earlier. But it still had the same teacher, so it was like it'd been a really good school, but they decided to bring in kids from all the problem kids that couldn't get into other schools, and it backfired. big time. 2 years above me was a crazy year with this lad called Bez in it. He was a nutter. He had a part. My and the year between wasn't too bad. Then my year, and so he was just high school was just, and I'd missed 6 months going to the hospital, so I fell behind. So it was just a laugh. It was just fun.
Yeah.
Swim school was being fun, and music was a massive thing. There was a big group of us, lads and girls. Reggae was massive. Motown was massive. Electronic music was massive. Bit of a mixture of everything.
It was such an interesting time that where you mentioned like the two tone movement. Like a couple of years ago, that they were running all the old Top of the Pops from like the kind of early '80s and the sort of turn of like the '70s into the '80s, and you didn't realise like how many different little movements were going on at that point. You know, you had the sort of tail end of disco, you had the post punk stuff that was going on, two tone, and then you had obviously you had the specials and stuff in Coventry, but over in Birmingham you had like UB40 doing like that first UB40 album was fucking
Oh,
great,
so
and like
you know what? I pontificate about that all the time, and people go, "Oh, you before it, amazing, yeah,
yeah,
signed up, oh, brilliant, yeah,
yeah, and I just think it was a really
was."
interesting time. There were so many little scenes bubbling away there,
It was
and
love that lovers rock thing. Yeah, it was.
yeah, absolutely,
That's a good
absolutely,
point. And we were kids from our parents who'd, so we had the 60s in our blood, and our parents had the 50s. So we had that kind of, the punk thing. So I think that's a good DNA, and I think that's why, kind of the 90s and 2000s. I mean, I would say that, but I think that as decades have gone by, I think music is not as good as it was, and maybe that's because it's been done before. I don't know, or less, too much other things to do, too much divergent. I don't know, but yeah, that's a really good point. I never thought about that. And that was always on the radio, wasn't it? So you go to the youth club, and they'd be. I remember I had to go to a youth club. I remember hearing "I'm a Believer" by the Monkees, which is another song that stuck me in my tracks. And but there they'd play the DJ played punk, then there'd be a Northern Soul 20 minutes, then there'd be an Elvis, then there'd be a reggae. And so you just ended up just by default loving all this other music. And I think that's what goes into making. And I think that's what was great about Britain. I've just come back from 16 years in North America, and people our age group don't really know soul music and all that because you grow up, white people like rock music, and it's really like that, for the most part, and obviously
yeah.
not. So, and that's really good. So, like, it's when my two boys came back here, we went into a supermarket, and the music in the background was Motown. One of them went, this makes a change. And I went, why? When makes a change from Sweet Home Alabama. It's true, like, and what's that Eagles song? California, Hotel California.
Hotel California.
That's all you hear in the supermarkets in North America all the time.
Yeah.
They went, yeah, and they're getting to use because I said smaller people are mixing. And when I grew up, Salford was mostly a white working class area. But yeah, we just go over the bridge and we'd be Moss Side, which was reggae, completely different. Uh, and that's why Two Tone brought it all together. And it's bizarre because I ended up friends with Terry Hall. We did a tour with Colourfield early on in the Mondays, and he was just amazing with us. I mean, really, I mean, there was about 3 gigs in, and we were keeping in the van. We had no money. I mean, really skinny. It was our first tour, I think. And 3 gigs in, we got there early in their dressing room, and he got a load of cigarettes on his rider, on his dressing room rider, and we went, just take a couple. So we did because we was literally penniless, and we did like bumming cigs and stuff, and he came in, and the cover, and then remember Sean's dad going, "That's it, you're gonna kick us off the tour." And we're like, "Yeah, that wasn't worth it." And he says, "Listen, lads, if you need cig, just ask, I'll give them you."
Oh,
I just
mate.
loved him for that moment. And I remember once I'd been out all night in the early 90s. So I must have been up all night. I don't know what kept me up all night, but something has. I'd probably all looked up. Well, I was up to because I get to Old Trafford for the football. I'm stood outside talking to my mates, and this guy comes up talking to me like that, and I'm talking to him, and he went, "You don't recognise me, do you guys?" And I went, "Yeah, yeah." And I thought it was this lad we knew called Wasp because he was a nuisance. He looked like him, and he still, he has his nickname, and I still. And I think I was having a joint, and it was all a bit. I had a joint. I was a bit, and as he got about 6 foot away, I realised it was Terry Hall. I was like, "Oh!" And I went, "Terry," and I thought, "I bet he thinks I'm being Charlie Big Potato," and I wasn't. And I'm like, and every time I saw him since, I was like, "Remember that?" And he's like, "Oh, forget about it." I'm like, "No, but please believe me." So it was really weird, and oh, it just really hit me hard when he died. It was really sad. But yeah, the
Yeah.
special were incredible. And it was the first gig I ever went to as well, Manchester Apollo. Uh, November 78 or 79, must have been 79. I was 12. And a load of us from school, bad schools, bumped off school and all went. And it was one of the best gigs. And everyone got on stage afterwards. And I thought that's what every gig did.
Yeah.
I went to the Echo and the Bunnymen, my next gig, and I said to Paul Ryder, when we all get on stage, you and you don't. And I thought,
I don't reckon Ian McCulloch would have been quite as encouraging for that behaviour.
no, 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 not back then anyway, as well. I
you,
had to congratulate him on Liverpool winning the title, which
he said the greatest thing I've ever heard in an interview, and I think he trumps any of the kind of wild Gallagher kind of quotes, and I think he nailed it first. I just read this interview with him once, and he was just so calm about it. He went, "Yeah, I remember when Bono met me." And I just loved the fact it's like, oh, when I met Bono, it was like, no, when Bono met me, I just thought that is
Well,
gold.
we did a festival with him in Scotland a couple of years ago, and obviously they were one of my favourite bands, and he knows that. And I was asleep in the dressing room. He stood over me and he went, "What about that Leonard?" He got me into Leonard Cohen. What about that Leonard Cohen? I was like, "Oh, that's good." So I got talking to him and kind of know him a little bit. And then they did the gig, and then we went on later. I think we might headline and finish. And as we was leaving, he stood drinking at his dressing room door, and I walked past and I said, "Best band in the world," and he went, "I know, Gaz, I know."
Fantastic. You mentioned something else then, mate, that I thought was really interesting. You referenced quadrophenia, and I think also at that point in the kind of early 80s as well, I think it felt like certainly for lads, there was them rite of passage films that went hand in hand with music, whether it was quadrophenia, whether it was the Warriors, the Wanderers, all of
Oh,
them films, they were the ones, weren't they?
three of my don't fuck with the ones. Three of my favorite, three of my favorite films. Incredible, incredible. It's funny because it was Warriors was one of the reasons why I couldn't play guitar for ages because I'd lost my feeling in my fingers. It took me 7 years to get back. I started a bad accident, but so because of the drum bit at the end, I thought, oh, that looks quite groovy. I don't mind doing a bit of that. So I got that's the reason why I got a drum kit.
Really?
Yeah. Oh, I might have had a drum kit. Or the reason why I decided I had a drum kit, but I was just using it to store stuff in the bass drum. And I remember that thinking, oh, that looks cool. Drummers, they love the groove. And that to this day, I like you. And obviously, it keeps me in. But I think Quadrophenia is probably my favourite film of all time.
Yeah,
Now, I've got a couple
absolutely.
of arty ones that I like, the Great Beauty, which is an Italian film, which is probably my favourite film of all time. But Quadrophenia never left me. I love the album. I played it the other day. I've got the original. I played it the other day. And I watched a documentary last week about it. Quadrophenia and the Warriors. Warriors is just phenomenal.
Yeah, yeah, so good.
All that, just the music. And it's funny because I've tried a few times on the album I've just done. I wanted to get somebody on a radio doing like and narrating the album,
Yeah, yeah,
we couldn't get anyone to do it. And that's exactly what, and then was pushed for time. You got to get a narrative for it. I was like, oh, I thought it's a great idea for an album,
yeah, yeah. That's a great shout.
isn't it? And, because I just loved that about the film. It just went back to, it was just phenomenal.
Lovely, lovely.
Mm.
I'm going to ask you now to tell me the first song you remember buying from a record shop, please, mate.
Oh, this is, I just have to say first by a caveat by saying the first record I ever bought was ever falling in love by the Buzzcocks. I bought it off my mate Chimp, who apparently don't like being called Chimp anymore because I bumped into him in Tesco's about 6 months ago. I'm not seen him for 20 years. I called him. I gave him a number. Today's my phone number. Put it in Chimpy when it's Simon. Put Chimp in, he didn't like that. And he said, and so I bought it off him. He'd bought it from the record shop that day, didn't like it, so I bought it off him. But the first time I went to a shop was like clockwork, the Boomtown Rats. I went with my friend Pete, and he bought Blondie hanging on the telephone. If they were out at the same time, sure it was. Sure it was that one.
Yeah, I would have thought it was back then, isn't
I
it?
think it was that one. And I bought that, and we played one after the other. And I thought, I love the Boomtowns were really punk. They're a pop band, and but I know people hate them, but that Sorry for the Troops album. There's a song in it called "I Never Loved Eva Braun," which is absolutely phenomenal. And so there's a couple of tracks I really liked them, but I used to get grief and still do to this day off my mates for liking them. Uh, bit Alan Partridge, but went out on a. This is very Alan Partridge. Went out on a night out in Tokyo with Johnny Fingers because he lived there from uh, the Stray Cats and Iron Maiden.
Jesus, that's a mixed bag.
I know I've been asked and I have no idea. Can't remember. Can't remember. I remember one from Iron Maiden was a West Ham fan, and that's all I remember from it. Oh, I don't remember anything else. And someone took the shoes off and we had to eat in this restaurant. It stunk, and it was one of our lot. That's all I can remember from the night. I can't remember anything else. Yeah, random. Yeah, they're good lads. Iron Maiden, though.
Oh, fantastic.
I think it wasn't
Fantastic.
with me. He was off talking about medieval castles or something. I don't know.
Yeah, he loves a bit of that, doesn't he?
Yeah, but the rest of them were great. We're really good lads. It's bizarre you get on with bands that you don't think you get on with.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was a good night. Well, it really was.
Before we sort of move forward, I just want to just ask one more question about sort of formative years. Like when you was at school, did you have any idea what you wanted to do then?
So my school was exactly like Grange Hill. Remember Grange Hill? Because when
Yeah,
that
of
came up,
course.
it was exactly like that.
Yeah,
Exactly. That's what I
yeah.
loved Grange Hill. 'Cause it was
What
so.
part of the narrative of Just Say No did your band not pick up on?
Oh, none of us in our school. Early Grange Hill before they sold out. Really good before the early Grange Hill. Yeah, took a. It was so. What was the question? I see. I'm digressing again.
What did you want to be when you
Oh,
was
what
at
did I do?
school?
Yeah. Well, from being a little kid, I wanted to be a footballer. I'd grown up in the. This will cause a lot of booing. Grown up in the shadows of Old Trafford. My parents. I was born half a mile from Old Trafford, across the docks in Salford. Parents, crazy fan. When I grew up in the area, it was a completely red United area. Uh, and the junior school I went to, we used to play football on the hill. At the bottom of the hill, the goals at the bottom, and you could see Old Trafford in the background, and just a little bit of green of the pitch. So that's what to play for United. I got asked. I did okay up to being 13, 14. Played in Europe with an England collective. I did trials, but loads of people did then. City were interested, but I could never play for them. I wanted to play for United, weren't interested. And I wasn't quite good enough. I wouldn't have made it. But then 13 comes along and music just took over and interesting football just lapsed. And then I just wanted to be in a band. I wanted to be in a band I wanted to do both. I wanted to be a footballer and be in a band. Not like Chris Waddle, you know what I mean? But like, really, but I did. I'd seen Top of the Pops and I wanted to get a band with my older sister in the 70s, like Shiwaddy Waddy or something like that. And and then obviously punk and up, and then that's all I wanted to do. But I didn't want to play drums. I wanted to play guitar, but I couldn't because of me. And then we formed a band at school. Me, PD, who became the keyboard player in the Mondays, he played bass. Everyone wanted to play bass because of Sid Vicious and Paul Zimmerman. Everyone wanted to play bass, and even Sting, play. Everyone wanted bass was the instrument because of reggae, and
Mm.
I wanted to play bass, but he got the bass first. So his drums or singer left, and I said, "Oh, I'll be singer." No, I'll be singer. Did a rehearsal. All the guitarist, Anthony Perkins, who wasn't a psycho, he was a good lad, and we practiced in his house. And when he was singing, we had wrote some words, terrible, and we did it. And I said, "What are you all looking at?" And they both went, "We're looking at you, why? Because you're the singer." I went, "Oh, I'm not. I don't feel comfortable with that. I'll go to the back and play drums." So I got a drum kit. So and then here we are. So that was all. It was just music. That's what I wanted to. And in them days, there wasn't distractions like there is today. So it was just music was you bought into it was just a lifestyle. It wasn't just it was the clothes, it was the music, and what we spoke about constantly was music. Whose albums, and it was I remember going to someone's house. What your older sister got? Oh, Bowie, Earth, Wind and Fire. All right, let's put Sham 69 on. Then Earth, Wind and Fire. It was just a mixture of everything. And I think that's a great. All these different branches coming into form. That's why I've got a wide range of music I didn't like. I never got into jazz because I didn't know anyone who liked jazz. It's only last year or so I've been listening to a little bit of jazz. I never liked jazz because I was never exposed to it.
Yeah,
Yeah, just wanted to be music. That's always been a band.
wonderful. Did it feel that like being from where you was from, and I imagine at this point Joy Division had done their thing, and and the Smiths were probably in their pomp at that point. Did it feel, oh look, there's people from where I'm from here that are doing this, like we can do it? Did it feel like it was possible?
Yeah, because of the Buzzcocks. I'll tell you what,
And Buzzcocks as well, yeah, of course.
there's a great Actually, most bands we were into, Mondays at the time, were kind of the Liverpool bands because we're from West Manchester, Salford. So there's a dual carriageway called East Lancs Road that goes from Manchester to Liverpool. There's a motorway as well, but there's a road. And we lived off that. So if we turn left, 10 minutes would be in the centre of Manchester. But if we turn right, 25 minutes would be in Liverpool. So we used to go there to get different clothes and music. And then bands were inspired us from, the Teardrop Explodes, the Bunnymen, uh, Pale Fountains. But Manchester music as well. But I think there's a great quote from Noel Gallagher, which is brilliant. Noel Gallagher said when he saw probably Smiths probably wasn't the best band to say this because of Morrissey, but he said, when you found bands coming from Manchester, maybe Joy Division and that, you realise you could be in a band where, you didn't have to walk down the street with a feather boa like Mark Bolan, you thought that, And I think that was a great quote. And yeah, maybe. But I just think my mum had gone to school with a couple of years older, two of them out of the Hollies, not one of my favorite. So I think, yeah, I think the Pistols really kind of did that for me. It wasn't the Manchester thing. I never, I never subscribed to that. How do I put this? I'm from Manchester, and that's the kind of thing. But I don't, I never subscribed to that North-South divide, or they're not from, they're Liverpool. Never don't get that. Yeah, I really don't. And people still, I have friends still going about it now. When we're, so we lived in West Manchester, which is kind of northwest Manchester, which is very different than South Manchester. South Manchester's students, multicultural. North Manchester's kind of white industrial. Changed now, but when we was growing up. And when I met my wife, she was from South Manchester, Burnage, and we moved to South Manchester. And when we moved to South Manchester, my dad would just call me. I'd go to the house and go, "Here he is, a Cockney." And I was a Cockney because I lived in South Manchester. So even within Manchester, there's all these separate, the West and the East are very different, but I was a Cockney from then on. I was a Cockney, because I lived in. And then when I moved to London, he said, "Oh, you're practically French."
Love it. All right. I'm going to ask you now for track five to tell me the song that soundtracked your year's clubbing, please, mate.
Oh, and another Pistols reference was Hey DJ, the World Supreme Team show in the mid 80s. And then Malcolm McLaren, of course. To this day, when I watched it last week. It's really dated, the dancing and all. But that was new to us, I tried to explain to one of my sons who's really into hip hop that or rap, and they're playing the early stuff. He's like, what they're singing about, what they say, it's like it's hilarious talking about food and about And I said, but when it happened, I remember when I first heard rap music. It was when I first heard it, but when Thingy was on, Sugar Hill Gang was on Top of the Pops.
Yeah.
I think it was 82, 83. I remember going to the pub. We used to go to the pub straight after Top of the Pop, and my mates, it was split down the middle. Half thought it was incredible, the other half were going, that was appalling. I loved it. I thought it was, I was like, what is this? And then, Hey DJ, it reminds me a little bit of what we talked about with the Warriors, of the narrating with the radio thing. There's a bit of a connection there. For me, there is. Anyway, I know there's not, but there is. And I just love this. It's just I'm going to dance out doggone foods. It's a great line there. It's a pity that she's so dirty. She's only dancing just to be friendly. I think, what? That's an American. What do they mean by that? Because dirty, it means something different in American. So I don't know. I just thought it was brilliant.
And that's
Hey,
the thing, though, isn't it? That's the thing with like at that point as well, like everything that was happening in America, just you could only get snippets of it. You could only get it if they were on top of the pops. You couldn't, or you could get an import or something like that. And it was the same for me. Like alongside the Warriors and the Wanderers and Quadrophenia, like someone at my school had a copy of Subway Art, the graffiti book, and it was just like,
all right,
holy shit, what is that? And it was like we were all like leaning over shoulders trying to see graffiti, and it was like, oh my god, what is this stuff like that's happening in America? And it just felt edgy, dangerous, and exciting, like what was happening in hip hop and graffiti and all of that kind of b-boy culture. Do you know what I mean?
the graffiti was certainly more of a London thing, without a doubt. I mean, I know it's
Mm.
kind of fair now, but it definitely. Did you grow up in London?
Yeah, well, just on the outskirts. Yeah, yeah.
About.
Essex.
All right, Essex. You're a West Ham fan then?
No, I'm not. No.
You're not. Oh,
No.
that's unusual. All right. Yeah, and it was. It was. I remember because the Hacienda early days. Hacienda was an empty, awful place, and it was. And they used to play like it was more for students really. There was a gay night, and student night. No one else really went in there. But the DJs, Mike Pick had been to New York, and they'd come back, and there was a a guy from Liverpool as well, DJ, and they were playing hip hop, and we was like, and it was empty the place, the dance floor was empty. There'd be no one in there. There's only like 50 people, and and we were like, wow, what's this? The first song I heard when I walked into the Ascender in, I was young, as 83, 17 or something, 16, 17, was the Paul Ryder took me in, was Girls Get Aaron, Washington DC, and I remember like, wow, what's this? And that's what it was so different, and we loved it, and it's weird because I think same with the mods and soul music in the 60s and late 50s and 60s, working class kids in England, especially white working class kids and black working class in America, had something in common. I know very different, but had something in common. And I think the connection was there straight away. Whether you're from the north or the south of England, white working class kids certainly got it because it was mostly that I knew. Bizarre, but yeah, it was fascinating, wasn't it? Just fascinating. And the thing we had a mutual like of Adidas and or Adidas, is it really? Trainers and stuff. And it was like, oh, kid, a kid in the Bronx, the South Bronx, or in Brooklyn or Queens is wearing a pair of them. We're wearing them. That's
Yeah,
really
yeah,
big. Oh, it was really strange. Wearing jumpers and knit jumpers and tracksuits, and it was bizarre.
yeah,
Yeah, I thought that. I remember that was the thing I thought was most bizarre. The fashion was the same. We had no connection, but they were into similar clothes.
yeah, yeah. That's a really good point. I never even considered that.
Mm.
I'm going to take you home for track six and ask you to tell me a favourite song from an artist from your home county, please.
Well, people always expect us to say Joy or something like that, or Buzzcocks, but it's Bee Gees.
Oh, what a
I mean,
band.
the Bee Gees is a weird one because they grew up in Manchester. I think two of them were born in Australia, but they grew up in Manchester.
Mm.
They cut teeth in Manchester. They work in men's clubs, and they went to Isle of Man and back, and then wherever. They're one of them bands that when you were younger and you're a punk, you kind of laughed at them, but secretly, them catchy them songs. As you get older, you realise how much better the songs get and the catalogue. And then I just heard him. I saw a thing a while back of doing an acoustic version of this track, and I'm just thinking, wow, lyrically, what a great song. I've got a couple of Bee Gees anecdotes really quickly. So they would, so they still have a council house in an area called Chorlton in Manchester, which is kind of like it's the kind of what area should I call it? It's the right on area anyway, but it's not far from Old Trafford. Uh, and they still have a council house there. It's where they lived in Charlton Cum Hardy. And they have the house that they bought, and they rent it out to NHS nurses. And I think the rent's still like something for the 80s. They don't charge any more. That's there. And I had a friend who had a radio show on BBC Manchester, and she said he came in. But I remember him being on the show, and Barry Gibb came in. This must have been about 7, 8 years ago, maybe. And when they were off air, she said he was on his phone, and he come back and he went, "Oh, sorry, I'm just on." This is the Friday night. He said, "Just on the phone to the roofers. There's roofers doing the roof tomorrow at the house. I've got to go meet them to pay
Fuck
them."
off. No
He
way.
said, "What? You're going to go?" He said they want cash. He said, "So I've got to go meet them and pay them." He said, "So hang on, they're going to roofers. So you're going to turn up to pay." And he went, and he was like, she said, he was dead. No, he was like, "Yeah, why? What's the problem?" He said, He didn't. She said, "But you Barry give me a but they won't care. They probably won't even know who I am." And he's like, "But no, I'm pretty sure they will." And he's like, and she said he wouldn't have it. And apparently he did. He did that. He did that because.
Oh, mate, I could say.
Yeah, I imagine. But the even better story on that radio show. Brilliant. So he's asking him about songs where he wrote them. Did he write any when he was back in Manchester? He said, "Oh, just the one." He said, "All right." And he said, "I'd come back to see my mum in Charlton." And he'd gone into city centre Manchester. And as you get next to Salford Central train station, just on the water, because you don't know Manchester, Salford set, there's a Irwell, it's like this industrial water, small river. It's only small, and one side Manchester, one side Salford. And a bit like the Thames, but much smaller. And on the Salford side is this place called the Marcaddy, who was this guy who owned the area. He was like a duke. And down was this like there's a little like patio right on the water. But you sat on the water and it's facing it one side. You sat on it, and all you're looking at is these Victorian warehouses all run down and orange industrial water passing through. It's horrible. It's not pretty. And he said he was sat there one afternoon having a break, and the guy comes and said, "Mr. Gibb, there's a phone call." He goes up, his mum phones in the bar. And she says, "Oh, Dolly Parton's been on again, saying you promised to write this song for her." and it's been nearly a year now. Will you do it? So he says, okay, okay, I'll do it. So he goes down. He said, I'm sat there and thinking, I can't ride it. He said, look, and there's this tyre in the middle of the well with all this rubbish going around it. And I thought, oh, it's like an island in the stream. And I said, is that a true story? She went, well, that's what he told me. Whether it's true or not, that's what he told me.
That's incredible.
I hope it's true. I hope it's true. I've listened to the show. He does say that, but isn't that brilliant? And then if when you go off here, Google the Mark Addy, Addy Mark Addy, and look, it's horrible. It's closed down now. But honestly, just facing this industrial red brick, it's like awful. And it's all the Irwell, the river that runs through Salford and Manchester.
I
But
still
yeah,
can't get the image of Barry Gibb just pulling out a load of old 20s from his back pocket to pay the roofers. That's fucking amazing.
I had a mate who put a floor in the house of David Jason. I think maybe somewhere out in Colchester, maybe Essex way. And he said he worked there. They worked there a couple of months, took the whole house doing it all. And he'd turn up now and again. They'd all shout, the Del Boy quotes. He ignored them. And then when he came, and it was brilliant, my mate Stan. Stan wasn't a bullshit, so it must be true. And he said, and then the last day we was all waiting to get paid. And he turns up and gets out of the car and he's got the coat on and all that of the car.
Oh, oh
Right.
yes.
I said, did he have the car? He went, no, he didn't have the car. He said, but he turned up all dressed up. And he was Del Boy when he paid us. So he was brilliant.
Oh, what a moment.
He said he even shortchanged us. And it was really, he said, when he gave it to us, I was waiting for you to find out. Brilliant. And that'd be Robin's fault. So how brilliant. I love stories like that.
Oh, incredible. Right, it's your last track, mate, and this is the track where I say, can you please tell me a song that you think many may not know, but you would like them to hear, please?
Uh, well, where have we gone? Oh, you've gone. Sorry. Oh, that's my technology. Sorry. That's all my. Hang My Head in Shame by Pete Molinari. Do you know Pete? Are you familiar with his stuff?
No, tell me
No,
about him.
he's from. Is he from Essex or Kent? No, he's from Kent. He's incredible, absolutely incredible. He's got it's like a Bob Dylan, but really flamboyant, amazingly dressed. I think he's got a Maltese Italian background. All the brothers. His song. He's got a little Barry's on this track playing guitar, which is phenomenal.
Wow.
He's played with Jacob Dylan in America. He gets all the he lives in America. I guess. He's always got big characters. Does big tours. Don't do big tours though. Does big TV shows. But doesn't have a fan base. It bewilders me. I don't know what he must be in his 40s now. I don't know, but I think Noel Gallagher might have been a big fan. He's kind of like his albums change, but he knows he's proper old. He's got a great voice, proper old kind of very 60s sounding. It's kind of artistic. You've got to go listen to him. Pete Molinari. How My Head in Shame was a single about maybe 3 years ago. It's phenomenal. A little Barry on guitar, obviously a little Barry.
Yeah.
Brilliant. But yeah, you should check Pete Molinari out. He's brilliant. Phenomenal songwriter. I just can't believe that he's not massive. He looks fantastic. He sounds fantastic. Everything's retro. Uh, you did a session with Don was not whatever he calls him. Jacob Dylan, all top musicians in LA. I think he lives in LA now. I was getting great people to work with, but I think was it Bruce Springsteen said he was on it. I mean, I'm not a particular Bruce Springsteen fan, but it said he's one of his favorite artists. It's
Wow.
incredible, but he's got a fan base. I just don't know why. But yeah, he's from Kent because he was the guy, an older guy we played with. Oh, I can't remember the name anyway. Yeah, but it's from Kent. It's phenomenal, absolutely phenomenal. Every
Oh,
album I play him all the time.
well, we make it nice and easy for people to go and check that out and check out all the other songs that we've spoken about today,
Yeah,
Gaz. We do a little Spotify playlist to accompany the
yeah.
show. So we'll put all of them songs on there. And we spoke about a lot of other people's music, but we ain't spoke about yours yet. And so Monday's aside at the moment, what's happening?
Just a yoga's uniformity. It was, but when I was living in North America, I'd come back for Monday's festivals, and then we'd do gigs at the weekend. I had all week off, and I decided to pick. This is probably about 15 years ago. Pick my guitar up again and started playing again, writing songs just for me, just to do, because I like Bob Dylan and Leonard Cohen, so I never had any aspirations to be a great singer or anything. It was all like that, and then I got involved with. Did a couple of tracks and people said, "Oh, these are really, really good." I got a couple of labels that are interested, but I didn't want to go down that route. And I kept knocking it back. I just didn't want to do it. And I kept getting really good offers saying, "Oh, these are really, really good." It's like, yeah, I know, but I don't really want to. I don't think I want to go down that route anymore. You know, maybe 50s, I can't be bothered. But I'm not, I just don't want to go do all the bullshit. And I got up with Latch, the producer, he started bringing strings in and writing stuff. And then the reviews and everything have been phenomenal. So I'm like, okay, Latch, you need to take it serious. So I am doing, I mean, I don't know what's happening with the Mondays. We're not going to do a new album. I just go and play drums and, so I had to do something, and it's what I like doing. It's all I can do. I'm useless at anything. If I could do anything else, I'd do something else. I know, literally. My wife does everything. I can't change a light bulb, but I'm hopeless. I can't function with anything apart from music. And it
Yeah.
comes easy. The lyrics come easy. It just comes quite easy to me. I mean, we're not doing it. It's not nothing. It's not Frank Zappa. It's nothing so complicated. But uh, I'm just live. It's taken me a while to get used to it. First, now I've got used to it. I don't care. And I'm just doing the odd gigs. So I'm not doing loads. I'm not chasing the. It, you need to have people hear it in recognition so you can continue. But there's no grand plan. At my age, no grand plan to, for attention or anything like that. I just want to do it, and I think that's what's helped because there's been no. It's like them things. My wife, because she was bored, started doing some extra work, and she said, "Oh, the extras like want to be actors," and she doesn't, and because she doesn't, she's getting loads of work.
Yeah.
I can, like what Ian Brown said, give what you got, give away what you've got to get what It's true to get it back, and because I'm not pushing it, I'm really. I mean, I do. I love doing stuff like this. I love to talk about music,
Yeah.
but then you get like press when they want to talk about what you're doing, what about drugs and that, and that's all good, and I don't mind doing that because that's all part of it. I
Yeah.
understand that, but I could love doing things like this. Like you obviously can tell by the answers, even what you were saying you love the music, and that's the bottom line. And I'm not trying to be, pious about it all. It's just true, and so I'll get back to learning about music. You go online, it's just this, that, what I hear about the music. But, when you speak to someone in a pub with someone, they talk about a song and music. You get engrossed in it, don't you?
Yeah.
It's amazing, just what it does, and that. So and I'm not being, you need to earn money. I'm not doing it to be some self-righteous, right on person. Fucker, I'm not at all. That's not the case. I want to progress but to a level where you've got a solid audience. I love it where people like when you hear like your Paul Wellers and all that don't want to be doing. They don't want to be that big. They're happy because that's when you're in a band. It must be different when you're at the front doing your own songs, but with the Mondays, because I only co-wrote them at the back. But when you do arenas, they're not really gigs. Like the old theatres are old, 1500, 2000. Brixton Academy, the Roundhouse, great, unbelievable theatres. I love them places. They're just perfect. They're perfect size. They really, really are. Some of the best gigs, they're the perfect size. The old Manchester Apollo. Was one that on Tottenham Court Road. I used to really like that one as well.
Astoria.
Story, I used to love it. Sound was a bit dodgy in the story, but I used to love the Historia. Saw the Clash there once, but I don't remember that either. I must have been heavily sedated.
Well, at some point you got to come and play my venue, mate. You got to come to Essex and you got to play my venue, and
What do you call? Would love to. What's it called?
it's called the Pink Toothbrush. And
That's a great time. That's a great name. Whereabouts in Essex is it?
it's in Rayleigh. It's the longest running alternative venue in the UK, mate. We've been, yeah, yeah. It was called Crocs in the early '80s, and Depeche Mode were our residents, and Culture Club played their first show there, and oh yeah, and then over the years, we changed it to the Pink Toothbrush 40 odd years ago, and it was big on the circuit throughout the '90s. I think when we sort of hit our pomp, yous were way too big at that point,
Right,
and
okay.
but yeah, it's a cool venue, mate. And
All
Sean and
right.
Bez have come down and played records multiple times, and but yeah, if you ever looking for venues to come and play,
No,
then
let's do that. Definitely. It's funny because my two sons are 20 and 23 now. They've grown up in Canada because they were 4 and 7 together. So they come to England. They said, "Where do you want to go in England? Place we can go. Where do you want to go? We can go show you some places." My wife said. They both went Essex.
really,
We went Essex. We went. I know it's beautiful. It's big, It's big. And I said, because someone was saying, "Where is it?" I said, "Spain. It's part of London." I said, "It's big. It goes right to the coast. It's big." It's like, oh, and I don't know. They just heard it on maybe TV, right? But
Yeah.
everyone seems to be from Essex. I went, oh, right, okay, yeah, yeah, let's go. Yeah. Yeah, seriously, that's what they both said.
Oh, well, if you bring them down and they want to night out, let me know, mate,
Oh,
and we can sort that out. Look, Gaz, it's been such a joy chatting with you, mate. It's been lovely, mate.
it's fine past you. It has. I really enjoyed it. It's just really refreshing. Good questions and someone who knows the stuff and about music. It's just been brilliant. I'm not just saying that. It really has, honest.
Oh, thank you, mate. And if people want to keep up the speed with everything you're doing, whether it be the Mondays or the new music, where's the best place to keep up the speed? You've
No,
already said you ain't got an Instagram, have you?
no, I've
Uh,
got no. I'm on Twitter as Yogi G Music. I think on
yeah.
Twitter or Yogi G. Yogi G in the family tree.com. I think the website's .co.uk. I think that's up now.
Well, I'll
Yeah.
put the link to that in so people can follow you on there, mate. We'll make it nice and easy for them.
Yeah, I've just followed you on Twitter this morning anyway.
Wonderful. Right, I'm going to press stop, but don't go anywhere.
Nice to. Thanks for speaking. Take care, mate.